Good evening, televiewers, and welcome to yet another exciting edition on our program Mountain Echoes. Welcome again this very special week, all our viewers and very special friends. A historical covenant and a significant identity among the African people are their affiliation to various tribes or ethnicity. A typical African will mostly definitely prefer to be identified based on a particular tribe or ethnic group from whence their ancestors originated. The history of tribal affiliations and ethnicity in Africa dates back to the pre-colonial era. Today's program will examine reasons why inter-ethnic clashes are recurrent in Cameroon, and especially in the northwest and southwest region, and maybe in we call the far north. How inter-ethnic clashes exacerbate violence, conflict in Cameroon, and mount out strategies to mitigate inter-ethnic clashes as baseline for strategic peace building. A way forward, be it a southwest, northwest, or a Muslim person. That is why today, dear friends, we shall be looking at this topic: northwest and southwest ideological conflict, opposing tribes or regions. We either sail or we sink together. On my right, we have Reverend Nelson Jobara. He is the regional president of Akadil. Those persons always working for peace. Be it a Catholic, be it a Muslim, be it a Protestant, be it maybe Pentecostal in quote, is equally a strong man of God. We call it like that, in quote, a strong man of God. Reverend Nelson, you're welcome and good evening.
Thank you very much.
And by Reverend Nelson, we have Chief Dr. Venatius. You are welcome and good evening.
Thank you very much, Father. Good evening, televiewers. Good evening, co-panelists. It's a pleasure to be here.
And of course, Mr. Sinjo Armstrong, he's also here. Mr. Sinjo, you're welcome and good evening.
Good evening, televiewers. Good evening, co-panelists. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we've been listening maybe names. Mr. Sinjo Armstrong, we have Chief Dr. Venatius Koma, the Reverend Sinjo Bara, and this time around we are changing the direction. We have Mr. Hamza Hillary. He is the Catholic is the education secretary of the education secretary, Islamic education secretary. You know, you have the Catholic education secretariat just here, so he's working. I'm sure he works also with the Catholic education secretary very close. They work very closely. So, Mr. Hamza, you're welcome.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you, dear panelists. Thank you, televiewers who've come to shed lights and to tell the world that living together is primordial.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's no news to us that since independence, Cameroon has been confronted with significant obstacles to its national unity. One of these major obstacles resides in inter-ethnic clashes across the national territory. The situation is highly critical as these clashes are deeply rooted in the least unity of society to the highest political office. And looking at our topic of today's edition, like I said, Southwest and Northwest ideological conflicts opposing the tribes or regions. We either sail or we sink together. Chief Dr. Venatius himself is here. We get back to history, talking about the pre-colonial era where all these things started. Can you please tell the viewers a little about this whole thing that has been eating our society slowly but surely?
Yes, truly, if we look at the way sociologists have partitioned human society, we say we have the family. From the family, we move to the lineage. From the lineage, we move to the village. From the village, we move to the clan. From the clan, we move to the tribe or the ethnic group. From the tribe or ethnic, we move to the race, to the entire human race. So we said these things have been happening, and from pre-colonial times. In fact, before we were colonized, we just knew that all of us were the same people. But when the masters came, the colonialists came in, they started distinguishing that these people, they are this, these are this, these are this. And with the boundaries that they introduced, they started knocking heads together. People started having the consciousness that, we could be different from the Hamzas or from the Njobaras. So let us do something to be more superior, to be more specific, to attract more attention. Let us fight against the others, and that's how it started. And since then, we have been on our feet, either running or crying.
the black skin. That's very important. We get to Mr. Hamza. We're leaving show this time around. When you get Chief Dr. Vinicius Kum from the Northwest, we are going down this way now to these persons. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. So you cannot really maybe trace a particular maybe location that you could situate those the Muslims precisely. But then we're growing up, we know that the Muslims, we know that you go to the far north, you see them maybe at Damara region, you see them down there. So looking at the topic of today's edition, Mr. Hamza, what do you have to say?
I think this topic, honestly, when I got the topic, I started thinking out of the box, and I said it will be a little bit intriguing, and we cannot say that we will establish facts without maybe infringing on somebody's right, either by knowingly or unknowingly.
Yeah.
And looking at this particular topic, it will stem from the fact that we may indirectly start in the public, here on set, hate speech will come.
Something which was struggling.
But however, I think we need to couch our words.
Yeah.
We need to be very civic. We need to be gentlemanly. Yeah. And the televiewers should understand that it is a topic that is very sensitive, and we have to look at it with a very specific and spiritual ways in which you understand that it is what has been established. Yeah. If we look at like what my able brother just said, doctor said, we'll start looking at that era from 1961 or 1880, let me say, from July 1880, from the colonial era, you realize that we had to adapt to a system wherein it was not us. And from that particular direction, we start seeing this royal exodus, living from one region to the other. At that time it was province, and today it is region. It's just a way of maybe cajoling some people to think that you don't belong or you belong. Yeah. But however, I think looking at within the Islamic perspective, I want to say I believe and I know for sure, which is a fact, that we are all God's creatures. Yeah. We are bound to love one another. Yeah. Irrespective of the fact that you look at your color, the race, you know that you are black, you must understand that we are all God's creatures. And again, turning back to say because of maybe your dressing portrays you to make you look like you'll be insulted or whatever, that is where the problem is. I, for one, they call me Hamza, they will see a Christian named Hillary, and people will start asking, this man is an Islamic education, so, but how comes? I am equally a Bakurian. Like I said, Islam, religion is not a tribe. Yeah. And so people should think out of the box that if this man is a Christian and this man is a Muslim, how did it come all about? We are serving the same God. Yeah. It's just the appellation. Some says Yahweh, some says Jehovah, some says Allah, and so on and so forth. It is the mindset. By the time we start thinking that at least this is my brother, like doctor said, I think I have every reason to go eat in doctor's house without any fear of anything. I know that, okay, doctor will prepare a food that I think it is good for consumption. I have the right to go to doctor's house, visit doctor. Gone are those days when people think that when you eat in a Christian's house, you are eating something that maybe it may affect you tomorrow. No. It all depends on how you feel. You get there, doctor has prepared chicken. No, doc, I don't eat chicken, but I can eat cocoyam. And it is there. You feel free. Take, for instance, we go to occasions. You eat. You ask, perhaps, who slaughtered this? We know that it's a practice that slaughtering of cattle and everything is done by the Muslim. Why they do that? Because they want that integration, that everybody should partake in dining. And that when it comes to wine, it may be a little bit complicated. But however, we still drink. We take water, we take soft drink and things like that. So we should not look at it as something very peculiar, but we should look at it from the holistic approach that we are all one and we are bound to live like one people.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Hamza, for clarification on putting a kind of foundation for us to, to kickstart with this program. Reverend Nursing, bringing you in as we call the man of God. Also, you have a host of persons that you shepherd also, and one of those people here in the Southwest region, heading for peace, looking for peace by all costs, thanks to God. Looking at this topic of today's edition, what do you think about this peace that we've been struggling, putting our hands together and praying to God to ensure that maybe we have peace when He demands that we'll have it?
Thank you very much, Father. I think the topic is quite challenging, and I want to begin by saying that there is this concept of symbiosis, which means looking at the dynamics of a culture of a people and how the people exist, what they do. Anthropological perspective, sociological perspective, which means anthropological. You look at the culture of a people, those virtues that put them together, those tenets that put them together, that give them an identity. Then anthropological, you look at how humans behave within that culture. Now, we cannot lament over spilled milk. Many things have already transpired. And a lot has happened, just as Doctor said, beginning from colonialism to neo-colonialism, a lot has just transpired. But we cannot go back to track and to talk about that. We are in the 21st century, and our desire is to decipher the way forward. When you talk about my personality and what I do as the regional president of Akadir, we are talking about interreligious dialogue for peace. If we are talking about interreligious dialogue for peace, it's expedient for us to underscore the fact that there is diversity in unity. You don't reverse the concept. Diversity in unity, not unity in diversity.
Yeah.
Which means we follow a protocol. If people are diverse, what makes them diverse? Which means, as Mr. Hamza says, if people identify themselves with a certain culture, certain dressing, and religion to an extent, okay? They are good like that because they celebrate that, and we ought to celebrate them the way they are. Now, the aspect of unity comes into play because in as much as they are who they are, there are other facets, people to living just they are, like they are. Look at Muslims, Christians, and so on, okay? There is a cultural identity we have attached to our religious practices and beliefs. Okay, when we talk of diversity and we come to talk about unity, we are not saying that people can exist in their different shapes, different forms, and do what they do, which gives them an identity and still function as one, giving peace a chance. Unity here does not mean that there is what we call osmosis. I don't drag you to me or you drag me to you, higher concentration, lesser concentration, so on. It simply means that we acknowledge the fact that we are one, and you can exist the way you are and exist the way I am, and both of us still have a common denominator.
Yeah.
And the common denominator at this roundtable discussion is the place of peace. That we can live and be different in our dialect, the language we speak, our religion, our beliefs, practices, yet we can still accommodate each other. So we are trying to look at a situation where we give value to a culture of a people and the way the people live, and allow them and encourage them and still see how together we can be one. Which means always looking for a common denominator, and I've said the common denominator is peace. We need peace so as to cohabit. So I think that we have come to a stage where we need to look for ways to track how to search for this peace, and not just looking for the peace and discussing it, but living it. When we start living it, the identities will be maintained, yet we shall be at peace with one another, and unity will be established.
Yeah, thank you very much, Reverend. Thank you very much for those words, Mr. Senjo Armstrong. Also looking at the topic of today's edition, at the end of it says either we sail together or we sink together. There is that. He said it's not the opposite. It's one thing. Either it's unity in diversity, it's not diversity in unity. We don't complicate those kind of things. So looking at this topic, what do you think about it?
Thank you very much, Father. This topic when I first got the topic, I remember I texted it behind.
It's a bit complicated.
Yeah, it's a bit complicated because
we have to begin from somewhere.
Yes, I talked with Father and I said this topic, I have never come across this topic. The topic is challenging in our present context. But again, I want to think that the topic is good because, like Mr. Hamza said, we are here to educate the public. And it's a very intricate topic, which if we don't, if care is not taken, we might likely step in the leg of some person and derail the televiewers. So it's a topic that you think that looking at our present context in Northern and Southwest, you want to understand that ideological conflict is one of the ingredients has really contributed to the crisis in Northern and Southwest region. And also I want to think that with this topic, we are going to address or give our own contribution. Yeah, we have ideological conflict, not only at the level of tribes. It ranges in all, even in professional sectors. We have that different profession, the kind of ideological conflict that we have there. And it is important to understand that this ideological conflict, it is not something that is limited to Cameroon. We have in the whole African nature, you know, because Africa has so many tribes, so many villages.
Some of those tribes are considered to be like superior and others
exactly.
Are, you know, not
and so with all these ideologies, superior one tribe thinking that I'm superior over these, and another tribe thinking that no, our tradition, our custom is superior than yours. Yours is repugnant. No, with this we have a lot of conflict that comes into play, and at the end of the day, they tend to look on another as not you are not superior. So all these things comes into play. But again, we need to understand that we have evolved, and Cameroon being a country where we know that we are all one, one Cameroon, and we must understand that we need peace. When you look at all this, you realize that peace, love, unity, and the integrity of a state, all this come into play. And so when we have this ideological conflict, it plays a lot on our unity, it plays a lot on our love, and it plays a lot, of course, on the integrity of the state. So we need to understand that we have come a long way, and we need to understand that we are one person, and we'll keep our differences, our ideology behind. Like what Doctor said, all these things come as a result after colonial period, where we were separated, because at first we were first of all one, and all these things came to place, the various tribes. In fact, if you look at Cameroon, over close to 256 any groups that exist, and every day we see the Ministry of Territorial Administration creating new communities, I mean new chiefdoms, and installing, and they are growing every day. As they are growing, that is how ideology are also growing. So people will go now with a new chiefdom, they will go and go into the archive, bring a lot of things. No, it is not done like this. It was done like this. This is how we do it. So all those things comes into play and bring a lot of disagreement amongst us. So at the end of the day, I think that after this discussion, we should be able to find a place where we can be able to educate the televiewers on how we can live together despite this ideological conflict.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Sinchu. We come back to Chief Dr. Venetius to realize that history has a lot to play with these. Our aim is not really necessarily going to those conflicts, or maybe those where we may be pointing our fingers on some persons as maybe they are the ones to be blamed. Some maybe the ones we use the ABC syndrome on them. We are not maybe to complain and blame and to accuse them. No, that's not our focus. But then we need to agree on the fact that all of us, if we put our heads together, like I said, either we sail together or we sink together. And if those little things are not addressed at the beginning, it becomes a bit difficult. Even the peace that we are looking for becomes a bit difficult, because if, for example, I call myself a Muslim, and I see that my Muslim brothers and sisters, we are fine. I don't care what happens with the Protestant. If there's maybe there is instability that way, that's not my problem. So far as we are this way, we are okay. We move along. That's not the kind of mentality, or maybe the way forward that we're looking for. So looking at, we know that there are some of those difficulties that we've been going through. What do you have for those in the northwest region, those in the southwest region, those maybe in the far north or western province? What are you telling them as far as this? Our goal, of course, is a search for unity, a search for peace that we've been looking for many years now.
Father, have you ever heard of the rainbow country?
No, maybe still.
Okay, that is South Africa. South Africa is great because of the differences.
Yeah.
If you look at the five of us on this panel,
Yeah.
look at our dressing. Whose own is more beautiful? It is surely mine.
Yeah.
Because it has many colors.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which means that difference is beauty.
Yeah.
Difference is beauty. Now, there are two ways in which we can approach this topic.
Yeah.
Ideological differences.
Yeah.
As Mr. Hamza said, if we want to use this first approach to look at the differences in the way, in the ideologies
Yeah.
that different tribes have towards others,
Yeah.
we might tend towards hate speech.
Yeah.
Because if you start saying that these people, we know that they are
Like this.
they are violent. These ones, they are lazy. These ones, they are kleptocratic. You are tending towards hate speech.
Yeah.
But the second approach to this topic is to look at the cultural disparities amongst the tribes. Cultural disparities amongst the tribes. And because of these disparities, because of what they have that we don't have, I will go towards him to get it. There was a time about 30 years ago, not up to 50% of Cameroonians consumed achu. About 50 years ago, not up to 20% of Cameroonians consumed ero. About 50 years ago, not up to 50% of Cameroonians loved bikutsi. Bikutsi was limited to a particular area. Achu was limited to a particular area. Ero was limited to a particular area. But now, everybody now consumes everything. I come from Isu. And if you organize a feast in Isu, and you bring all the fufu corn, I don't bring watafu and ero, people will say I've not done anything. But that is a place where about 30 years ago, that nobody knew about watafu and ero. Which means that our differences are bringing us closer, and the closer we come, the stronger we become. That is the thing we should be telling our people. What are the differences that exist where you come from, where I come from, and how can we benefit from these differences to get stronger instead of... And thirdly, we can also approach the topic, as you mentioned, by talking about inter-ethnic conflicts. What are the causes? That one, I think that one is very simple. Land, boundaries, natural resources, and all of that. So I think, Father, let us forge ahead and educate the public on the importance that our differences should bring us together instead of
carrying us away. Mr. Hamza, maybe picking up from where Chief Dr. Vinicius has just ended. What do you have? What do you have for the public?
I always admire Doctor when he articulates, and same with I call him Joe Biden.
Yeah.
I have my reason for addressing him Joe Biden, Reverend Joe Biden. I think this should be my first time we are meeting on set. You see, like I said earlier, I said this topic is very sensitive, and we have to couch our words. The truth about it is, the ideological concept stems from the fact that the white man has impacted something on us, that which we are still crying today. They brought language, they brought religion, and then they brought education. It was good. Education is part of the technology. It's good though. And when we start going back to that historical issues, you realize that the education that they brought and the religion has caused a lot of damage. And so we are now left to try to control that damage. We need to manage the damage. And so by this our efforts need to be harnessed. The reformations of law that are put in place is equally another situation. For instance, we are talking about Northwest, Southwest. The greater conflict of these issues of ideological conflict will come sooner. I am not a prophet of doom. I'm not an advocate, a devil's advocate, but I'm saying it because if you see what is happening within the region is because of some people feel that they are of the minority. And to a greater extent, and history has made it very clear that most of those people who are of the minority are the benefit most at times. And that's why I'm sure the UN is trying to look into that particular minority differences. Sometimes they call you slave. They address you slave. And you tend to understand that you are a slave. And you become, you become extremely rich. And then the people who term you slave, they come for job seeking. In that slave, as a master of that slave, you become now the authority over somebody who is not a slave. I find it very perturbing when I see the way some people address others. But I think it is because of their mindset. It's because of the way they were brought up. If we reason like human beings, not like animals, you understand that, Father, I can come to the parish and you protect me, no matter that I am a Muslim. And if I think that you are equally a brother, you come to the mosque, I have to equally protect you. The issue is I want to be dominant. That domination is as a result of I want to prove strong. Like Reverend Joe Biden said, we apply the principle of osmosis. The stronger solution draws the weaker one. But here it is not supposed to be like that. People have bought land. They use their money to get to acquire that land. Allow them be. They never forced you to sell. So how do we live together? You need salt. I have Maggi. In the days of trade by barter, how were our parents, how were they living? Can you imagine at that time there were no conflict?
And now we have everything, we have everything with this conflict.
That is where we now start asking ourselves. Because you go to a neighbor, you have water, I have milk, you need my milk, I need your water. We live together. I take your milk, you take my water. And life continues. But today, what is coming? You see somebody, you create stigma. You see somebody, you say, because I am learned, I'm a learned person, I am superior, I have all it takes. So who are you? Keep quiet. Get out. Are we helping our situation? We are not helping anything. So I think the only advice and the best way we can maybe harness this kind of mindset, it goes with reformation of law. The Bilingualism Commission, the Multiculturalism and Bilingualism Commission, they have a long way to go. They have a lot to do. Some people preach what they don't practice, and it's not coming from the heart. I said it in another way. This particular topic needs to be looked within, need to have the holistic approach, that we talk like people of God, with soft spoken, like Reverend Joe Biden used to say, I love the way he talks. I love the way doctors used to articulate, like I said. So sometimes you get to a gathering, Graphy man, 99. What message are you sending? Our children are coming up. They will eventually pick up.
Yeah.
And so that's how it digresses. That's how it goes. They grow up with the mentality of total hate. Today we intermarry. I was speaking the other day when I visited the Kamsu. I said, Islam is not a tribe. Islam is not a tribe. Go to Christendom, you see that, like Doctor is saying, he's from Isu, but surely you are a Catholic. Father, you are not from Isu. So why then look at the Muslim to be something else? We have Banso, who are Muslims.
Yeah.
We have Bafums, who are Muslims. We have Bakwarians, I for one, they are Muslims. We have different tribes that have come together to worship. So don't look at somebody and you start creating stigma and you feel that maybe you are superior. You are not. We all are creatures of God. When you die, what are you going to tell God? That what did you do on earth? The services that God sent you to come and do, to deliver, what did you do? You didn't. You did not meet up with your goal. So I think, Father, we have a lot to do in terms of this particular topic. I'm telling you, I don't know how you got to get this particular. It's so touching, honestly. I feel nostalgic, but I'm happy. I'm on set in a Catholic. How do I put it? But however, we are one.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Excuse me, Father. I beg to let me follow up what Mr. Hamza has said.
Yeah.
And I beg to give a concrete example to corroborate the fact that most of these ideological differences are Eurocentric. It is the colonialists who imparted these ideas into us. Let me take a concrete example.
Yeah.
With your permission, let me use the Bakweri. I want to raise a point and deconstruct it. I want to raise a point and tell the world that it is a lie. What the ideas used to have about the Bakweri. When the Germans came here, they fought the war with the Bakweri. They defeated Kuva Likenya. They seized Bakweri land. Yeah. Have you ever wondered why the level lands around Tico were occupied by plantations and that the Bakweri were living on the hills? It is because the Germans used force, drove them away from their ancestral lands, pushed them up to those reserves, and occupied the land. So the Germans now asked the Bakweri that come and work on this planet. The Bakweri said, no, we are not working, we are angry. Yeah. The Bakweri became apathetic, that they will not work, will not work, will not work. Do you know what the Germans started saying? That the Bakweri are lazy. Okay. And when those things were written in some books, when people grew up and they saw them, now they say, Bakweri people are lazy. No, it is not true. If the Bakweri were refusing to work, it is because they were angry. If you go to any village and seize their land and ask them to come and work on that land, they will refuse. A man will say, I would better sleep in my house a whole day than to go and work.
That's resistance.
As a slave on my ancestral land. So that's just a follow-up I wanted to say. And there are many of these ideologies that were brought down to us from the West. So on this panel, let us start saying that some of those things are false. Let us now start saying the truth to our people, that this idea about these people is not true. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Just
like how the Germans, how the colonial masters, when they visited Cameroon, they had to settle within the coastal area.
Yeah.
And you know, it equally stems from the fact that the people of the coastal area became more learned, that they have the education first, you know, and so they could challenge the other people, because the people from the grassroots too, they came down but to work.
Yes.
They did not come here to go to school. You see, so in that light, I just want to equally corroborate with what Doctor said. So the people of the coastal area were learned, and so it gives them that urge to the issue of superiority.
Yeah.
You see that? So that's actually some of the. And then now they now look at the people of the grassroots as illiterate, and then it became another problem, which is another stigma. So you see, you say this person is lazy, I say you are dull.
Yeah.
You're not learned, and things like that.
Instead of bringing those who are, if you say this person is lazy and the person don't bring your the strength that you have and the intelligence you have to put together.
So these are the ideological concepts and conflicts that has already, like you said, in those era, those I up to date I detest the white man. I'm sorry to say that in the platform. I don't even think of going to Europe or going to any white man country to live my life. No, I'm okay here. I detest them because of the ideology.
Yeah.
The kind of ideology they impact on our people. Today we are suffering. And so we just need to change the mindset. It's just an act of just changing the mindset, and then we move on.
Yeah, thank you very much. We know that all of us were created in the image, or are created in the image and likeness of God. Reverend Nelson will tell us more about that. And I pointed out three things: language, education, and religion, which was brought to us by the white people called maybe our colonial masters. And we have a choice either to still keep those things that they gave to us, or we discard of them. So Reverend Nelson, looking at where we are heading to, as either we are sinking together, or we are sitting together, like we said before. Looking at these three key things that we've pointed out, what do you think that can help us as a people who are knowledgeable, the people who have the power, the strength to do their work, and who have everything that it takes to live together and to live as one?
I want to think that if we are sitting at this panel to chat on this very sensitive topic, our intentions are to initiate the way forward. We have to start moving. We cannot sit here and discuss concepts again and celebrate the fact that we can still point out to facts and figures and literally leave this place without establishing the way forward. I want to say that after listening to the various speakers, I want to come in with the notion that the time has come for us to look at the African man. In African traditional religion, we say the African man is notoriously religious, which means BT says so. All right, BT says so.
Yeah.
Notoriously very religious, which means at the end of the day, our ideologies can be suppressed when it comes to worship. Who you are, who I am. When it comes to worship, we are more concerned about the supreme. And that explains why at the advanced level, GCE, we treat the 5 main religions of the world. And the religions are Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, the Hebrew history, Judaism, and so on. Now we are trying to bring together kind of comparative studies, just exposing ourselves to what people, humans, practice. But here we are trying to look at how our paradigm should move. Which means if we thought that culturally we're protected through what we wear, the kind of dressing, what we eat, and we pride in it that we are better than others because they are not like us, the time has come for us to move. That explains why if we take religion, advocacy, and put in front, we'll not begin to say, in as much as we have our ideological differences, the conflicts in the minds are as a result of the fact that we have deviated from concentrating on the worship.
Yeah.
Now, if we all start looking at worship as central, there will be a reason for us to bring ourselves to a platform where we will accept the Muslims, the Christians, and so on, and we'll begin to speak one language. When we start speaking one language, that is where peace comes. And when we speak one language, to an extent, we are exercising justice, because justice provokes peace.
Yeah.
If there is not justice, justice in how I treat you, justice in how I recognize you, just in the way I respect you, justice in the way I hold myself, justice in the way we look at boundaries, all right, cultural boundaries and so on, tribal boundaries and so on. When we begin to understand the dimension of these things and look at worship as central, now there will be reasons for us to devise strategies on how to hold seminars where we can downplay on the aspect of hate speech, who can downplay on the aspect of pride in your culture and so on. And that moves from the religious aspect, teaching religion and so on, to this our Acadie vision. No, the vision of the Acadie is to see how we can bring about dialogue, advocacy dialogue, interreligious dialogue that brings about peace. Okay, now when we talk about interreligious dialogue, we are looking at people who are attached to their culture, they believe in their things, and they have concepts that have been handed down to them by their ancestors, and they want to promulgate those concepts. But we are saying that the time has come for our paradigms to shift, so that we do not still speak as if we're in the 18th century, where we're in the 21st century. We do not still act. Mr. Hamza just said it, you know. People just think, some who have just come up today may not have gone back to history to understand how some things came about. But if you are to read some books and to understand these historical facts, you now realize that we cannot speak that same language in today. Because people who are considered slaves, that mentality has disappeared. Those who are considered literate, some who are illiterate, that is a story of the past. So if you bring it to this archaic, antiquated, you know, you cannot be talking about those concepts that obtained when the Germans were still here. And they're splitting us because of selfish interests, you know. They wanted gain, they wanted resources. And so they made sure they pushed us aside to exploit us. So now that we have come to realization and we are masters on our own, because we now determine what we should do, how to do it, how to prosper in it, we can now come together and put aside those odd, antiquated beliefs, stigma, and now chart the way forward. And the way forward should be, I respect your religion, I respect my religion, you know, because when it comes to religion, whether you're a Muslim, whether you're a Catholic, you're a Protestant, we are focused towards worship. Now that focus towards worship can always pull us together to have opportunities to sit like this and chat, okay? Opportunities to kind of move people onto understanding the reasons why there should be communism, all right? In as much as I live in a small house, I live in my small house, you know, there is time for us, there should be a time for us to come together and talk one thing, you know, discuss one thing and move forward. Okay, this panel discussion has moved us from different places. Mr. Hamza says he's surprised, you know, where he's sitting, you know. Look at his premises and look at his TV station. You know, he would have been saying that it's time for the Muslims to introduce their own TV station and carry out their own things, which will pertain to the Islamic beliefs and practices. Yeah. But you know, we have come where I come here, I'm a Protestant, but I do my programs here. You know, he comes here, we function because there is a common denominator, and that denominator is looking at how we can bring about dialogue. And when we start discussing some things and putting aside old time thoughts, we are already introducing new thoughts, and that is stepping forward. So I will conclude by saying that it is important for us to concentrate on our religious practices and beliefs while practicing our different cultures or living within our different cultures and tribes, and demolish conflicts in the mind, because conflicts they generate from the mind. The way you think will explain the way you're going to function. If you think positively and you accept me and accommodate me in your heart, there are chances that you're going to accept me in the public. But if you have that negative notion about me, no matter how we try to pretend to be one, at the end of the day, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. Intermittently, you say it either by chance or intentionally. Yes. Sometimes you are provoked by situations and circumstances. You air something. And sometimes what you air can have very devastating consequences. Because, you know, when one said it, you've already said. The Bible says, let your conversation be full of grace, seasoned with salt, that you might know how to answer everyone. Colossians 4:6. Let your conversation, what is conversation? Camaraderie, discussion. What is conversation? Answering a question, presenting a situation just as he presented one here. Yeah. Let it be full of grace. Talk in such a way that it will be consoling, so that at the end of the day, it will not just be about the content, it will also be about the container. The content might be very juicy, but if the container is dirty, the appetite will drop. So talk in such a way that the words are full with grace, seasoned with salt, then you know how to answer everyone. So I think that time has come for us to look at our worship perspective and to see how we can pull ourselves together and look for aspects of peace, opportunities to speak peace and to live peace. In that way, we'll move above little conflicts of the mind, and we'll begin to see how we can reason and strategize on issues that can make us function as one and exercise freedom within our communities and still move together.
Yeah, thank you very much, Reverend Nassim. We go to Chief Doctor Vinicius, looking at the panelists of today and our topic of today. What do you have for the public? Somebody's already reminding me that, Father, there's so many persons from the Northwest, and I indicated that we have a Bakarian who is also a Muslim. He's not just from the, it's from the Southwest, he's Wanamboko, like we call those of the land, but then he's on that other side. But he thinks that if we put our heads together, a Protestant, a Catholic, a Muslim, and maybe from Northwest or Southwest or maybe far North, if we put our heads together, we'll say together, we'll not sing together. Just looking at the guests today, the panelists, what do you think about it as related to our topic of today's edition?
I think the panel is complete because we are focused on the Northwest and the Southwest, and we are here from those directions. And secondly, we are coming from different cultural backgrounds. And when we talk of culture, we are referring to those things that distinguish a person, a tribe. Language, custom, tradition, science, philosophy, system of administration, and all of that. And one thing you ask, another question, Father, that the education, the religion that the West brought, what do we do about that? The language. Now,
because from every indication, our chat from the beginning, we've maybe made mention of that, and we've pointed out that to some extent it has really been a difficulty that is we are still facing the consequences to date.
And because of those consequences, we rather shift to our indigenous educational systems and our local languages. It is surprising that 21st century we are still, there are some people, big as they are, who cannot read their own language, their own tribal language. They cannot write in their tribal language. They write in English and French. And let me remind the panel that some time ago, Asian countries were at the same level of development with us. But now they have gone far because they resorted to their indigenous knowledge, indigenous technology. And I'm also surprised that we are saying that if we want to develop, if the Northwest and Southwest needs to develop, we have to go back to Anglo-Saxon culture. That is the most foolish thing that we are saying on this earth. That if we want to develop, let us fall back on Anglo-Saxon culture. It is wrong. Let us instead shift towards indigenous culture. Because if you see what we have here, if we go back to our roots, I think we will do things that will surprise the world. If we want to fall back to Anglo-Saxon culture, we'll do what is done in Britain. Who will look at us? Are we going to surpass those people there who brought it to us? No. Let us have our own. Let us be original. Let us use what God gave us to project our images. I think it will be better for us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Mr. Armstrong, you've been silenced. We know that it has not been it has not been very easy this evening with us, but then, like we said, we are not coming here to point fingers at some persons, but then looking way forward with these. There are some things that if you do not maybe call them names during the day, in the night, or over the night before the next day, will develop to something else. So it's preferable maybe we call the names and we look for a way forward, so that by the end of the day we come to a consensus that's living together and sailing together for the good of our country, for the good of the world. So
yes, Father, you need to understand, like Mr. Hamza pointed out, where you see ideological conflict that emanate at times, education, language, culture, and religion. But again, I want to point out that these things shouldn't lead to conflict, but we should rather, the differences that exist shouldn't lead to conflict, but they should bring us together. Because if one person is educated, another person is not educated, it is an advantage that the educated and the uneducated, at least they should be able to live together. They should assist and live together. And so it's just a matter of education, because the public still needs education that with ideological differences, it shouldn't lead to conflict. But we have to understand that ideological differences must exist. But it should rather help us to be more, to live together and to understand each other. Most of those ideological differences that comes up, those things are not even verified. Like what doctor was trying to do, they have to actually trace to us. And at times we allow these ideological differences to pass on to the next generation. They grow to think that that's how it is. That that you see a particular culture, that you see someone from a particular tribe sometimes try to banalize his language, his vernacular. You think that no, this person, you want to look down on that person, and you see another person who cannot speak his vernacular, and you think that no, this person is not that culture. So all those things we need to understand that people need to learn. So the only way forward here is that the public should understand that we should be able to accept people, accommodate people, either from education, language, and religion, and learn how to live with them.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. You see, it is not an easy one. It's not an easy one. There are some persons who believe that they are always superior. Because I'm from the central region, for example. You know, central region, you know that you're kind of a big man, and this man is from maybe the southwest region. How do I compare myself with someone from the southwest region, or somebody from the central region? We are the one controlling. We are superior. But then when we put all those things, those are just names that are added to how significant, how important is this this gift from God that you're carrying, moving around? Before all those things came, the human being who existed, those things were only added. So we may call them to be like attributes. We may say we just call them maybe to be like attributes. The real thing itself, we are the real thing. So we may cut those things out from ourselves, and we can work together. And so looking at ourselves as individuals, as creatures of God, if we put those things aside, I think maybe it will be a better way for us to live together, and even the peace that we've been looking for since 2016 will easily come. But if we start seeing ourselves as someone from this region or from this particular tribe, and it may be a bit difficult for us to move together. We'll easily sing together, and not maybe to sail together.
Not to sail together.
Father, we will not sing together. We will not sail together.
Yeah.
We are not in a ship. Neither are we sailing in a boat. We will not sink together. We came individually, and we will live individually. We came with nothing, and will certainly live with nothing. If we have that concept, we have that belief, then what are we fighting for? Reverend, am I in order?
Yeah, in order.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Now, they brought religion.
Yeah.
They brought education. They brought language.
Yeah.
Today we have religious tolerance. True or false?
True.
And by that, if you understand that, because I am a Muslim, you are a Christian, we have to live together. Even in the days of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he lived with the Jews. Are you aware of that? He lived with the Jews, and nothing stopped him. It all depends on your gentility. Dog, you have a goose pimples. Why are you jittering? I thought maybe my word have affected you. So he lived with the Jews. That's a fact. Ab initio. But then today, you see a Muslim, you look at him as if, come on. We have a school now. I did all I could do with the effort and the support of my imam. Today we have a secondary school. If you go to that secondary school, majority of the students there are Christians. It will surprise you. Some of us, we attended Christian schools. That does not change our religion. So it is the mindset. The education we are talking about, if we look at it, is the same curriculum. We apply the same state curriculum that is applied everywhere. It's not a Malam school. It's not Hamza's school. It's not Father's school. Kaddi's school, is it your school?
It's not my school.
It's a school for the nation.
Yeah.
That everybody can come there. Presbyterian school, is it for only Reverend Joe Biden? So this is what people fail to understand. So we want to tell the public, tell the world that we are one. We are one. I don't want to believe in that language of CPDM, one and indivisible, no. But we are one. We are God's creatures. We are bound to live with one another. They brought the issue of language. Like Doctor said, we need to start thinking out of the box. Because that's where maybe we may differ a little, because anywhere you go, you see a Muslim, you see him talking in their dialect. It would be very difficult for you to hear him express in the English language with his brother. But because religion has come, when you get into that circle, you must not speak the dialect. You are now speaking the language which is very common, which is universal.
Yes.
So that is where we need to understand. And again, Father, I think our administrators, our leaders, spiritual leaders, chiefs and all the like, they have a role to play in terms of the sailing and sinking.
Yeah.
They have a vital role to play. I saw on social media the other time, I saw the chiefs from the funds from Northwest. They came visiting the paramount chief of Boya. I don't know with the historical past whether they shook hands. This is cultural value. You understand? Some people, they have their own. So respect my own, I respect your own. And we move on. That's where the ideological concept now start implementing, start applying. Because I shook hands with you, other people start interpreting it in another way, because I cannot. But you don't know the relationship, the bond that they are struggling, or the message they are trying to pass by. You look at it and you start interpreting. So we should stop misinterpreting what we don't know. That's part of the ideology.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Hamza, for that short chief. This is for all of us. This is for all of us, and we are struggling to maybe to create a path for peace to arrive as soon as possible. And we think maybe like the gesture that the example that Mr. Hamza gave. I don't know, maybe for a very long time we've not heard for maybe the chiefs living from the Northwest to come to the Southwest, you know, to visit, and that kind of official visit.
It's courtesy.
Yeah.
Courtesy visit.
Which is something we ought to learn, and we think that all of us are from the same background, origin. We have God as our Father, though we may call him Allah, we may call him Jehovah, we may call him God, and so on. But then he's still our creator. And still looking at some of those things, what other ways do you think these persons who are leaders that we look up to, because it begins from them, if they cannot give us maybe a way forward, they cannot be as exemplary, they cannot be as models for us to follow, it may be a bit difficult. So what do you think?
I think that visit from the funds of the Northwest to His Royal Majesty, the Paramount ruler of Boya, of the Bakuri, was very significant. It's a form of it's an action to break down social barriers, an action, concrete action to break down social barriers, and we might not, in order to forge ahead, we might not have to keep on harping about ideological differences amongst the tribes. No, that is just one aspect. I earlier mentioned cultural disparities amongst the different tribes. There are disparities, but as Reverend mentioned, and as Mr. Hamza mentioned, let us recognize that people are different and move closer to them in order to benefit from those differences. And there is one thing that is happening in Cameroon that I like a lot. There is horizontal and vertical social mobility. Horizontal and vertical social mobility. The president calls it national integration. there is no village, there is no subdivision in Cameroon where people from your village are not found. There's no subdivision in Cameroon where people from your village are not found. This means that people have now moved to areas that are strange, and they are discovering those areas. There is no tribe, there's no family whose member is not married from a different tribe. So we said that movement across the national territory, that movement into various families through marriage, I think these things are breaking down those barriers. And I am sure that in the nearest future, most of the things that we are decrying today might not be there. Because you have Cameroonians, you have a Cameroonian whose grandparents are Tika. The grandfather is Tika, the grandmother is Chamba, the wife or the father is from a Wondo, the mother is Bassa. That would be a typical Cameroonian. In that case, now, in that way now, 4 people have come together. So where do you belong? Everywhere and nowhere in particular. So I think that let us harp on the positive aspects of these differences for us to forge ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chief Dr. Vinicius, and to Reverend Nafsin. What do you have to say about that too?